OutFront now is LaTosha Brown, co-founder of Black Voters Matter, a national organization focused on getting Black voters to the polls. So, LaTosha, I know your organization is based in Atlanta. Black voters in Georgia account for 30% of all voters. And obviously, we saw a mixed group of voters today that Victor was speaking to. And you just heard Gabe Sterling from the Secretary of State's office say it's impossible to tell who this early turnout is favoring. Traditionally, people would say it favors Democrats, but this is a new world. The rules have changed. You don't mail in, you come in early. Do you think this enthusiasm in Georgia is favoring one candidate over another?
You know, let me say, I think having a high turnout in Georgia and to break records of people coming out actually strengthens democracy. That ultimately the work that we have done in other groups is to make sure that people feel free and fair, the elections, that they're able to get out and to vote and to cast their ballot. So who wins and who benefits? What we know right now is I think that all Georgians benefit when we see this kind of turnout, that you have a healthy democracy. You need to have a electorate that is participating and engaging. And so that's what I'm really happy about. I think it's too early to say what candidate necessarily will benefit from this, but I think there are some signs that this is certainly that Georgia is certainly in play again.
Again, it certainly seems that way. Now, some of those, Victor had gone through just sort of a quick little bite from many of the voters he spoke to. And it is incredible in this cycle we're in. Those bites pretty much tell you everything. They're very clear. Sometimes in prior elections, it might be veiled. I mean, not that they intended to be veiled, but it might be veiled. But it isn't now. It's generally, you can tell, all right? Now, I'm just curious from your point of view. The current polls that we have show that Harris trails Biden's 2020 support among Black men by roughly 15 points. So do you have a sense of how Harris is doing right now among Black men who are voting early? There were a couple of them there in Victor's piece. One of them was talking about build that wall. But what do you see among that group?
You know, as we've been going out talking to people, and we've been doing this work nonstop, as we've been talking to people, I think there's a consideration. I think there are a number of things. I think, one, there's this assumption that when people are frustrated, that means that there's one exodus from one party to another party. Yeah. The truth of the matter is that there's the frustrations of Black men. That's not new. The frustration of Black voters, that's not new. That's been something that we've actually seen election after election. Part of what I think is happening now, because I think gender is on the ballot in many ways, I think what we're seeing people that are paying attention to it. And I think a lot of their frustrations are valid, of really having the kind of policies that they need, that they want to actually see for themselves in their communities, that we're seeing some of the same issues from criminal justice reform to economic opportunity. All of those things are a concern of them. And so I think that's part of why we're seeing. I also think another driver, though, is around misinformation and disinformation. You know, early on, we heard this before. This isn't the first time that I remember in Georgia when we were looking at the Senate race between Senator Warnock and Herschel Walker. We heard that there was going to be this huge exodus of Black men and they were going to vote for Herschel Walker. It simply did not happen. So I think that there's one thing to see the frustrations, but I also think that Black voters understand that there is a fear and there's a threat around to democracy in this country. And it's a matter of making sure that we're getting the right information to people.
All right, LaTosha, I appreciate your time and thank you.
Thank you for having me.